it's Stephen here at Bland Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make this little mini album. And this is kind of different because it opens up like this and like this. Then you close those and it opens up like this. Close that, flip it over, opens up like this, and it opens up like this. So just the right size that you could put it in your purse or wherever. It's a great little brag book, and a little belly band over top of it. Now, I'm going to change the design of this a little bit for this particular tutorial, and the paper that I'm going to be using comes from the Bo Bunny line, the Secret Garden line, and it takes 3 sheets of pattern paper. It takes the Secret Garden Lovely, and we're going to be using most of these panels on this. You're also going to need a sheet of Secret Garden Roses and a sheet of Secret Garden Arbor, and you need one 12 by 12 black sheet of cardstock. And this is all made with one sheet of this as your background. So when I come back, I'll show you how to use the black piece to get started. To make the foundation for the little mini album, you're going to need a sheet of cardstock, black, 12 by 12. It could be any color you like. I like black as it goes with everything. And you're going to need your score pal or scoreboard for this, or a ruler and a bone folder, doesn't matter. And you're going to score this sheet at 4 inches and again at 8 inches. And then you're going to turn your sheet 90 degrees and score in half at 6 inches. Okay, let's put this scoreboard away. And now you're going to fold all your score lines. And use a bone folder to get a good crease. Okay. Once you have it scored, you're going to take a pair of scissors. Find my scissors here. And you're going to cut the 6-inch score lines from the left edge of the cardstock to the 4-inch score line. So your 6-inch score line is this one that fell down the middle. So let's just turn it this way. And you're going to cut to the 4 on this side. In other words, you're going to cut it to the first score line. And then you're going to go to the other side and do the same thing, cutting along the 6-inch score line. Okay, so that's going to be our foundation piece, and I'll show you how this folds up. Got little bits of stuff here. I should have cleaned off my work spot a little better. So fold it in half, fold the right flap over, and this is a good time to give it a good score. Fold the left flap over, then just open this up, flip it over, fold the left side in, fold the right side in, fold the left side over top, fold it in half, and it should all open up like this. Flip it over. Okay, so that's our basic foundation. You may want to give it a good press with your bone folder, again, all the way around the edges. And if any of it is a little crooked, this would be the time to straighten it up a little bit. Okay, just need to straighten that one out a little bit. Okay, so we've got that all done. So the next thing is to take your sheet, the two sheets of Roses and Arbor, and you're going to cut those into 6 pieces, each measuring 3 by 7.5 by 5.75, or 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back. I've cut out my 2 pieces of patterned paper into 6 pieces each, and each piece measures 3 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, and so I will get 6 out of both sheets. And what you want to do with each one of these once they're cut out is to round the corners of each one. So I'm doing this on my last piece. And then you want to go around the edges with Wilted Violet. Turn it this way so you can see it better. Wilted Violet Distress Ink is what I'm using, and an ink applicator, but you can use any colors that you like that suit your stash and what papers you might be using. And again, this is sort of an option, but I like to distress the edges when I'm putting these on because it just makes them pop a little bit from the background. You just go around and you put as much on or as little on as you like. Okay, so you do that for every one of these pieces. The next stage, and let's just put this to the side for one moment, is to take the sheet of Secret Garden Lovely, which has all of these insert squares, and you want to cut each one of these out very carefully. Now, if you're using another product line or another set of papers, you can cut it whichever way it works best for you. So I'm going to go off camera, I'm going to cut out my pieces, and then I'll be back to show you what to do. So now you're going to take these 12 pieces and you're going to adhere them to the panels on your black cardstock foundation, and you can decide where you want each piece to go, what you want as the cover. You really have 2 covers on this album. You have a cover on this side and you have a cover on this side, so you might want to do it as 2 different sheets. And then all I'm doing right now is I'm just placing my sheets inside in the order that I think works best. And I'm going to do this one here. I'm not sticking them down at the moment. I'll go there. I'm just placing them. Okay, so once I've determined the order that I want them in, I just have to stick them down on each one of these. Now, for this, you could use a wet glue, or I prefer to use double-sided tape. You could use your tape runner as well, but the thing about a tape runner is I find that because this is something that may be handled by many people, opening it and closing it all the time, that if you use the tape runner, that tends to dry out and your pages may fall apart. This way, I have found, at least with double-sided tape, that my pages don't fall apart with a lot of handling. And I also like to varnish them a little bit with my bone folder to make sure they really stick. And you've seen my videos before, so you know, because I don't have fingernails, that I like to use my paper piercer to pull up the backing. And then you just center it. So you've got a nice, about 1/8 of an inch black border all the way around. And again, I sometimes go over it with the bone folder just to make sure everything is stuck down. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to put my other sheets down inside, and then I'll be back. Now we have all of the background panels adhered to our booklet foundation. So what we're going to do next is work with our cutout pieces for the pages themselves. And we're going to start by making our belly band that's going to keep our book closed. And we're going to take the piece that has the words written on it, "What a Wonderful World." And in this one's case, to make it fit, we're going to create the belly band out of this whole card. So we don't want to have any mess on this whatsoever. So to start with, we're going to be cutting out What a Wonderful World, this piece, and it's going to be sitting right here on the top of our booklet with the belly band in behind. Now, it's slightly wider than our booklet. So when we cut this out, we're just going to cut in from the center section here. And again, this is all going to depend on what you're using as your paper backgrounds for this. So I'm trying to make the most out of my stash. And then I'm just going to fussy cut all the way around. Now, I do have room to add this piece, but I want to cut 2 strips from this card as well, so I'm not going to bother cutting around that little piece. Again, if you want to use more paper or a different type of paper for this, you could do this any way that you like. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just cutting out this whole piece as an oval. So there you go, and I'm just going to cut this piece just around it a little bit more. Okay, so that'll fit very nicely in the center of my booklet. Now, these 2 pieces that are left over, I'm going to cut down to measure 3/4 of an inch by 6 inches long. They're already 6 inches long. I just need to measure in 3/4 of an inch on each side and cut them down in 2 strips. So get out my paper trimmer for this. And I'm just going to measure this piece. Oops, let's put it this way. And it's going to be 3/4 of an inch. Make sure it's lined up and it's straight. Oops. Problem when you cut little pieces like this, you might find it easier to actually draw a line on the back of this piece and cut it out that way. Whatever works for you. So there I have one, and I'm going to do the same to the other piece. 3/4 of an inch wide, 6 inches long. Okay, so I have these 2 pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 pieces, flip them over. I'm going to distress, again with my Wilted Violet, these 3 pieces that I've cut out. Actually get it on this side. Again, this just adds a little definition to it, makes it stand out. And do this to the second piece as well. Again, you can do as much or as little as you would like, or if you would prefer not to do this, that is an option as well. And I'm going to go around the oval piece. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to set that aside for a moment. Let's get rid of that scrap. And I'm just going to flip these 2 pieces over. And I'm going to take a little wet glue, and I'm using the Dries Clear for this. You can do it with a tape runner as well. And just about, half an inch in. I've given it way too much glue. I'm going to line these 2 pieces up, and I'm using a non-stick craft mat here, so that will allow me to grab a baby wipe, clean up the glue that I've squeezed out. Clean up my spot. Okay. Let that just have a couple of seconds to set up, and then let me just dry off this wet spot. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take my book, lay it on the center, approximately the center area, and I'm going to bring one side up and just gently, and I'm not doing it completely tight up against the edge. I want a little wiggle room, because this will get thicker when you put pictures in it. I'm going to take the other side and wrap that around too, and leave a little bit of wiggle room. And then I'm just going to cut off a little bit of the excess. And on one spot, I'm just going to put a little glue. Just line that up and carefully press it down. Now you don't want glue to run over the edges of this, so once you have that down, you can just slip it off your book and press it down. Make sure it adheres well. Then you're going to take this, you're going to center it on your belly band, and just give a little bit of a bead of glue right on the band itself. Center it. Hold it down for a few seconds so the glue sets up. And there you have your belly band. Just slip it on. Now you might want to do this after the glue dries, but I just want to show you how this looks. And there's your belly band to hold your book together. Okay? So, what we're going to do next is, what are we going to do next? We are going to, all right, I'm just reading my instructions here to figure out where I am. I got a little lost, sorry. Okay, now we're going to add the bird image to the piece, to the center of the back of the belly band, okay? Because remember, you actually have two covers on this book. So we flip it over, and we find another one of these cards, and this one has the bird in it, and we're going to do the same thing. Now be careful when you cut this one out as well, because we're going to want the corner pieces for something in a moment, and I'll show you what that is. So just go in from the edge and fussy cut all the way around the oval. Again, this is all going to depend on the paper you pick and how you design this. This is just one of many methods. So feel free to experiment. The scissors I'm using, by the way, are Tonic scissors, recommended by Tim Holtz, part of his brand, and they're excellent for cutting, for doing fussy cutting. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to distress this with some wilted violet. And we're going to adhere this, just like we did the one on the front cover, And you want to make sure that it's the right way, just by putting a bead of glue across the center of the belly band. And then center this piece. Hold it for a few seconds so the glue sets up. And there you go. Your two sides are done. So when I return, I'm going to show you how to take this scrap piece and use these little corners for extra embellishment. So you're going to take that scrap piece that you cut the bird in the oval out of, and you're going to cut that, what's left over, into 2 equal halves. So picture this. I've already cut mine down, but you have the top half and you have a bottom half, so you're cutting it in half. Then take one of those halves and just fold it in half and even up the top edge. You see I've got a little bit of an overhang here, so I'm just going to cut that off. And then I'm going to open this up and cut along the fold line, so I have 2 pieces. And as you see now, I have a left-hand piece and a right-hand piece, and I've used 2 of these already on these 2 pages. So to finish these off, take your corner rounder, and on the bottom corner of each of these, you're just going to round that. And take your Wilted Violet Distress Ink and just go around the edges. Again, this is completely optional, except what I find is, since these are going to become pockets, that it does make them pop up from the rest of the background paper. And now you'll take 2 of these pieces, as I've done here already, and I told you we have a left and a right, and on the first page of our booklet, so this is our first page and this will be our third page, I put one down in the left bottom corner of the first page and one in the right bottom corner of the third page. Close this up, flip your book open it up to the first and the third page on the opposite side, and you're going to do the same thing. Now when you adhere these, remember these have to have an opening here. So you're just going to take your glue, flip this over, and on one outside edge and on the bottom edge just put a thin bead of glue. You don't want it too wide, you want enough to hold it, but you don't want to close off the pocket. And then line it up with the corner and press it down. Any glue seeps out, just clean it up. And do the same on the opposite side. Thin bead of glue along the bottom edge and a thin bead of glue along the outside edge. Line it up with the corner and glue it down. Okay, so let that sit for a few minutes so the glue sets up. And when I come back, I'm going to show you how to do the inserts. With the cards that you cut out earlier, you're going to round the corners on each one with your corner rounder and then distress the edges with Wilted Violet again. So I'm just finishing up here on the last card, rounding all 4 corners and then distressing the edges with Wilted Violet Distress Ink. Okay, now that we have finished that, we have our cards. What you're going to do is you're going to stick one of these cards into each one of these pockets, so 4 pockets with a card in it, except this card. This card's going to be special. hold this, put this one aside, the one that says bloom where you are planted. And then just pick whichever card you like and tuck them into the corner. Now make sure your glue is dry in there for this, that you don't tuck it right into the glue, or when the glue does dry, you won't be able to get the card out. Okay, so now I have 4 of the card inserts. Now, you're going to take one of these leftover cards and you're going to cut it into 2 pieces, measuring 1.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. It's already 3 3/4 inches along this part, so you're just cutting it at, you're going to cut it so it's 3 3/4 inches this way and 1.5 inches this way. And you can pick whatever card you like. I think I'll just stick with this particular one. Get my paper trimmer out here. And I'm cutting it at 1.5 inches. And again at 1.5 inches. There will be a little bit of leftover. Okay, so I've got those 2 pieces cut like that. I'm going to round the corners of each piece. And this part I'd already rounded the corners before, so I only have 2 on this piece to do. And then again, distress the edges with Wilted Violet Distress ink. Okay. So, when you open up your booklet this way, the right side here, you have these 2 centered pages. So what you're going to do is you're going to adhere to the bottom, approximately in the center of the bottom of each page, these 2 little pieces that you've already cut out. So you want this to be, sorry, I'm just consulting my notes here. So I'll show you in a moment how to adhere these 2 pieces to the bottom of the page. You're just going to take your Dry's Clear Glue, and you notice what I've done is I've put this one to the left side of the bottom of the page and this one to the right side of the bottom of this page. You're only going to put glue on this edge and on the bottom edge, and you're only going to put it maybe 3/4 of the way up on the bottom edge. So you want this to be able to open like this. So just turn it over, little bead of glue, and up about 3/4 of the way there, and then just line it up with the corner and the bottom and smooth it down. Get rid of some of this excess glue that's squeezed out, and the same with this piece. Right edge and 3/4 of the way along the bottom edge. And guess what? I made a little mistake. Easy to do, but easy to correct. Put the glue on the wrong edge. But a baby wipe just takes that right off. And now I'm lined up properly. And down on the bottom corner. Okay, when that glue dries, you're going to be taking your last two cards and you're just putting them right in there just like that. Now we have one card left over, and that's the one I asked you to keep aside, the one that says bloom where you are planted. What we're going to do is cut this in half, and we're going to cut these pieces approximately 3 inches by 1 1/4 inches. So on the first part we want the words bloom where, and on the other half we want you are planted. So basically my measurements are approximate. We want them to fit onto these panels. So I'm just going to trim this fairly close to the word bloom at the top. And I want to get that where in there. So again, I want to trim right between those two words. And I'm going to sliver off just a little bit more. You can do this paper trimmer, you might want to use your scissors for it. And then trim off the edges. So all I'm doing is I'm just cutting this down so it's going to fit neatly onto this little piece right here, just like that. And in this case, I don't think I'm going to distress it. That could be an option, but I don't think I'll bother because I think that might be too much of it sticking out. I want to kind of make it look like it's one piece. But again, it's an optional. And I'm just going to trim this one down, close to the edge of the word. And that one will fit right there. Okay, move this out of our way. Get rid of our scraps. And now you have the option of using a wet glue on this, or you could use your tape runner, or you could use your two-sided tape. I'm just going to use the wet glue. Wet glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room here in time to dry, so if I have to straighten this up so I can position exactly where I want. And the second piece. So basically, on that sheet of cut-aparts, we've had very little waste. In fact, all we have left over is one little piece right there. And you know, this says it's got a word on it. I could almost take it and stick it somewhere too, but I'm not going to bother. Okay, so now my book is done. There's just one last step. I'm going to put the belly band back on. And this next step is optional. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, give it a shake, and I'm just going to outline the words with my Wink of Stella just to give it a little bling. It's subtle, but when the light hits it just the right way, it will sparkle. Now, of course, you can do your belly band any way you wish. You could do this with a flower enclosure. On the sample I showed you at the beginning of the video, I used a totally different line of paper, and I adhered a butterfly that I punched out using one of my punches to create the little centerpiece here. And also, something else that's a little different about the belly band on the first one is I used a magnet, so it opened up from the front. And that's an option as well. So let me just get the other booklet in here so you can see, compare the two. So there's variations that you can do. So you can see in this belly band, there's just a magnet under here, and I used 2 pieces to cover up the magnets and did it this way. So there you go. Little bit mini brag book, fits in your purse, fits in your pocket, easy to transport, be a great gift for somebody as well. And you can do it on anything that you like. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.